Good morning. Welcome, everyone. This is our Community and Neighborhood Enhancement Advisory Board meeting for December 3rd, 2018. Our meeting now is called to order. First item is approval of minutes from our last meeting of November 5th. Can I get a motion to approve? Been moved? Seconded? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Items for discussion/action. 3A, street resurfacing projects. Status update. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I'll go over some of the street resurfacing projects. One of the things that we really liked was the process overview. Planning kind of went through and it kind of steps through. It's got the slide rule of kind of where everything is in the process. And some things I wanted to kind of go over was the way we did the scoping, construction, and the completion. So I'll just kind of run over those. That way you kind of have an idea of what we're up against when we get the projects going. Obviously, the project identification, you all have assisted us with identifying the different projects and improving the prioritization methods. And then with that prioritization methods, we have a group of projects, whether it be residential or arterial. And then once we get those projects approved through you and City Council, we'll go out and initially do a site visit and kind of get the itemized, areas of work and the things that we need to do and focus on. We'll take all that information back to the office, and then we work up a project estimate. We do the engineer's estimate, and then once we kind of get all that finalized, make sure we're within the budget and we got a good scope of work, we'll go to our finance department and we'll try to get a purchase order. Once we achieve that purchase order, then we'll get with the contractors and try to get a work order out to them and let them get going. During construction, and this is for the street resurfacing, we obviously start with construction signage, kind of get that signage out there, let everybody know that there's going to be some construction going on in the area, kind of get everybody familiar with everything. On the arterial, we'll work with the businesses, and residential will work with the homeowners and let them know that things are going on and make sure they're aware of everything and if we need to address any different issues. And then obviously we try to do the concrete repairs first. So we get out there and we do any curb and gutter, any drainage, if some of the inlets need to be replaced, we obviously always try to do the bicycle-friendly grates and stuff. And so we'll try to get all that stuff done, any valley gutters for drainage to help those things. And then we focus on the ADA upgrades. We'll get in the intersections and try to do the ADA ramps. If there's pedestrian facilities there, we try to upgrade the ramps if they're not compliant, and then obviously compliance issues with the pedestrian, the signals, and even the push buttons, try to make sure those are in compliant as well. And then obviously on the streets where the infrastructure is in good shape and we can do minimal repairs, we obviously we mill and overlay those projects. And then some of the ones where the structure is just beyond repair and we have to rebuild those, we'll obviously do stabilization on those. And then, of course, we jump in and do the paving and then try to do the striping and finish off with any of the traffic signage that we need to do. And then part of our completion process, once we get all the itemized work done, the inspector will constantly be doing kind of a punch list, things that he needs to be addressed. He gives that to the contractor. They try to get all that stuff repaired, and then they come back to us and ask us for a final acceptance. And so we'll do a final acceptance on that project, look over everything, and then we always create a punch list if there is any items that need to be addressed. And once they've completed that, we'll sign off on that stuff, and then we go through the process of taking that to City Council, getting that project approved, and putting it into the maintenance bond. And so that's kind of the process overview. You'll see that slide rule on the bottom, and it'll kind of show where everything's at, and that'll kind of get us going and give us a good update of the projects. And then now kind of go through some pictures like we've been doing before on projects going on. Reno, Portland to Meridian is this picture of them obviously milling everything up. This was a project we pushed off to try to get past the fair and everything, so it kind of fell back, behind a few other projects, but now they've got out there and they're milling and paving for every day that they can pave. On the next slide, I actually have a little video for you. It looks like I think it's going to work, or it did when we ran through it this morning, so hopefully it'll work again. And it's Northeast 63rd, Kelly to Eastern. It's showing them pave. This is one of their last parts to pave. So as you can see, the asphalt truck backs into that paver, and it starts dumping, and that paver is pushing that truck along, and that asphalt's dumping, and everybody's kind of got a purpose there. They're watching everything. There's a lot of different augers on both sides, and they're making sure their surface is matching up. Nothing's not meeting what. If need be, they'll make small adjustments, but it's kind of a loud process, but everybody kind of has a deal. So as we move along, we'll try to bring more and more videos to show y'all and kind of get an idea of the work that's going on. That particular project, they actually finished all the paving, and they're waiting for it to be striped. This photo, I just really liked the photo. I thought, man, that looks like fall. It's got all the pretty leaves and everything, so I thought, man, you can't not put that in the slides today. So Northwest 36, Pennsylvania to Western, all of the asphalt's done, and it's been striped. They're still doing some concrete repairs, the concrete intersection there at Western, so they got a few more stuff to get that stuff done, and then they'll do the striping on the concrete and get that project wrapped up. So Rockwell to Wilshire, it's virtually complete. You can see all the striping done, and so the city sign off. We're just verifying all the punch list items were complete, and then we'll move to final accept that project. Northeast 63rd, Santa Fe to Kelly. This is in connection with the other Northeast 63rd. This one's a little further along. It has all the paving complete and all of the striping, and so our inspectors just kind of got with the contractor. They're doing some punch list items and stuff, and then they'll call for a final, and hopefully we'll get that one wrapped up pretty quick too. So having all that stuff, we come to our next, and this will be an action item. With last week, Eric had kind of showed you the new prioritization methods with the new program. It has everything kind of computerized, and it's going to run all the streets in the city and kind of push, the ones that need the most attention to the top. And it's a little bit different. We use the same data on both of them. We're using the pavement condition index, we're using the average daily traffic, and we're using maintenance costs. One of the items on the residential that we've always wanted to include, and we kind of put in there with the program, it can get the number of addresses. So any housing that's in that residential, we can kind of get the density of that area, and we feel like that was a pretty good, data to add into the program. So we still use the maintenance, the maintenance cost per lane mile, so the maintenance stuff is in there. I think that's always crucial to be in there. More visits we make to those projects, we start spending a lot of money on those projects, and that we know that we need to get out there and make some more permanent repairs rather than just a pothole here and there. So that was a number, that was a data point that we added. So I guess at this point in time, I'll ask if you have any questions on that. If not, we would ask that we approve the new prioritization methods for the arterial and residential resurfacing.
I have a question. It's an observation and a question.
Okay.
On one of the streets that we previewed last time as finished, which was 50th Street between Penn and May.
Okay.
During the last large rain, I was on that and ran into a lot of water, and in subsequent trips I've noticed that I didn't see any drainage in that entire length of highway, and I was just going to ask if that was because there wasn't infrastructure or drainage available to do, or why, what's causing this?
Usually on streets, on the resurfacing part, we look at the drainage stuff, but we don't do a full-blown, reconstruction of drainage. We don't come in there. We don't ever put the budget to add structure and stuff. So typically we try to pay attention to that kind of stuff, and if there is drainage issues, we obviously try to put in money for that, and a lot of our bond, the 2017 bond projects, they try to address a lot of those infrastructure needs when it comes to the storm pipe and where there's drainage issues. But if the curb and gutter and stuff is holding water, those are issues that we definitely address. And if there is current infrastructure, storm sewer, and if there's inlets and stuff, we obviously repair those, but we don't usually go in there and add a whole lot of new infrastructure. That would kind of raise the cost. But if you see streets and stuff that of concern and stuff on some of the list of projects that we set, let us know. And if if those projects have those needs, we can always come back to the board and address those needs and see if we want to add in those types of stuff. It would be a project that we would probably have to send out to a consultant and let them do a drainage study of all the areas and how much water is incoming, and then and try to do more of a full-blown project and reconstruction and stuff like that, because there may be some utility relocation that would be involved, and there may be a lot of right-of-way that we may have to purchase if we don't have enough right-of-way to add that infrastructure there. But always something that we take a look at.
This was just during our last heavier than normal rain, but it was enough to make me wonder about all that since we had just seen it reviewed. So
yeah, absolutely.
To answer the question, I had a question of my own about it.
It's something that, without a doubt, it seems like we've been getting some larger rains than normal, and so a lot of times, as the infrastructure is there in place, and it just sometimes that time of concentration, the time for that stuff to get off there, if you hit it right when it gets heavy and the rain's really going, a lot of times the storm pipe has reached capacity. It's doing what it's supposed to do, but sometimes it takes a few minutes for it to dissolve away, and those few minutes it does a lot of water will gather in the gutters and kind of make you wonder. Any other questions?
We need a motion. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you.
Terrific. That brings us to our next item. We said last time we would like to come with a list of projects if the prioritization method was approved, which we approved it, and so we used that prioritization method to run a list of additional projects, and here's a map of the 10 projects that will come to you and ask for recommendation. When we ran to the prioritization, these projects moved to the top, and so we went through and picked the ones that we knew were in need of resurfacing, and so with that, we bring to you 10 new projects that we would like to add to the list. Our initial projects were the 16, arterial, and then we approved another 41, and then we approved another 27 in September, and so this time we would like to bring another 10 just to keep the progress going. We obviously look at continuity with other projects, and with this list of projects, we have other projects close to proximity, and so we can get the same contractors in on these projects as we move forward. It helps some connectivity. It also helps contractors to kind of stay in the same area that they don't have to remobilize in larger distances, and hopefully that accounts to get more of that work done in a whole lot faster way. So if we don't have any questions on those projects, then the same thing, we would like to come to you and ask that you move to approve those 10 additional projects.
I got one question.
Yes, sir.
So is this, the 10 projects that are being presented, they are part of a broader list, right?
Yes. We run the entire list of all the city, and so there's arterial streets. I think there's around 1,300 arterial streets, and obviously when we ran that, all the bad streets that we know that are in, need move to the top. You can see some of the work order costs. The first one is $103,000. There's another one down the way, number 5 on South Walker between 74th and 59th. It has a cost of $111,000, and we even have one on North Rockwell from Britton to Hefner. It has a maintenance cost of $137,000. So these costs start adding up pretty quick, but these are a list of the larger list of 1,300, and if
So I think the reason why I was asking the question, because I think it would be helpful in general to be able to sort of see as a reference point like what the next 10 were, for example, just because it kind of this kind of is a little bit in an island, because I know what we've already approved so far.
Yeah.
But then it would be good to see sort of how this matches up with like whatever the next 10 were, just from a reference point. So we kind of, at least for me, it helps for me to see what's coming.
Absolutely, and I think we've done that in the past, and we'll bring that back to you with, the top 200 or 300, and then give you an opportunity to see that list, and then as we approve more, it'll show those projects just kind of getting checked off.
Yeah. And as a, I guess, matter of personal preference, I don't even know that the next 10 or 20 is probably sufficient versus, because I know there's an immense number of general, streets on it, like say up to 1,300. So I don't even know that the next 100 matters as much as just seeing the next 10 or 20. So it kind of just gives you a reference point of what's coming in relation to what we're approving.
Yes.
And that, anyway, for me, that's just helpful for.
Absolutely, and we'll bring that back to you and show you. Just a note is that so far we've approved about $86 million in the street resurfacing category, and so of 168, or I think it's 86. So of the 168, we're approximately about halfway through. So, we have about 90 projects approved so far, and so we'll probably get another 90 projects. And so this is 10 of that 90, but yeah, we'll bring a larger list, and then that way we can approve, 10 or however many we need to make sure we keep construction moving forward.
Question, on the first 3 phases then, what number of those are completed at this point?
I had that on my last one. I know 12 for sure are completed, but I think we've moved more to council, so there's probably another 3, so we're probably looking at about 15 to 16 projects completed, and probably another 10 that are very close to being completed. This is kind of the slow time of year where asphalt's being laid, every day that the temperatures meet those requirements, and so it moves a little slower, but I think we've got a really, really good start. A lot of the projects we pick are projects that need a lot of different repairs and stuff, and so a lot of curb and gutter repairs, a lot of the storm sewer inlets and things that are just beyond repair, so we end up replacing those or rebuilding those back up, and so a lot of that little stuff there is a little slower, and we always prefer the concrete portion to get done before we come in and mill and overlay that road. So a lot of projects we would hope, would move on between 3 to 6 weeks. Sometimes they drag on a little bit more just because we notice the standing water in the gutter, and we try to repair all those issues.
What is the temperature range needed for paving?
There's a couple different standards. The ODOT standard and the city standard's a little stiffer, where we go off wind speed as well. We prefer, the temperature to be anywhere from 40 to 50 and rising. And so as long as we have a window where we can get good paving and enough time to get out there and get that stuff done, but wind plays a huge factor in that as well. With the thinner lifts, a 2-inch lift, you really don't want 20, 30 mile an hour wind gusts, and so the temperature of the actual road itself, the surface you're laying on, we calculate that temperature too. But we would like to see things in the 40 to 50 range and rising if possible. So, January, February, we don't get a whole lot of those days, but every now and then it's Oklahoma, so you never know what the weather's going to do from day to day. So, but that is a stiff requirement, and so there's a lot of different factors: surface temp, the amount of wind speed, and then the rising temperature. We try to get between 40 and 50 and rising.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you.
Thank you all very much. I'll turn it over to the Assistant Planning Director, Mr. Butler, to go over some of the street enhancements.
Good morning. Just a few enhancement updates for you. So just a reminder of what has been approved so far. We have 8 projects that have been approved, and they're displayed on the map in the core of the city here, is kind of where they're clustered. In the next three slides, I'll go through, they're kind of in three different buckets, I guess, so to speak, in terms of their progress. This one, Walker Avenue, is kind of the one that's furthest behind, I guess. So it is going to be advertised coming up pretty quickly, and that's the first step. Well, the first step is scoping. It'll be advertised, it'll be out for a few weeks, waiting for consultants to submit letters of interest or proposals, and then it'll continue to go through the selection process and design. So that's Walker. A few other projects that are further ahead, Paseo, Portland, Northwest 39th, and Stockyards. Those have been advertised, letters of interest have been submitted to the city. We now have a couple of committee members that are going to participate in the selection process along with some city staff members. And so those proposals or letters of interest will be sent out, I think, in the next few days. So you, Mr. Dixon actually will be one of those, and Ms. Hernandez will be the second one. So that's that group. And then we expect, once those letters of interest have been received, you'll have the opportunity to help us whittle those down to 8 consultants that will then be interviewed, and then we'll make a selection from there. And this group of consultants that we have now that have submitted letters of interest we'll be taking all of those through the same process. In other words, we'll be selecting consultants for all of these at the same time from that same pool of applicants. So that will be happening soon. And then finally, the projects that Public Works has on-call consultants, and these are typically consultants that are assigned to projects that are not quite as complicated. And that would be 10th and Vermont, which is an intersection, Northeast 23rd Street and the Plaza area. And those are not as extensive. They're more kind of fixing some issues that have been identified. They're not as, I guess, comprehensive as the other projects. So these will be a little simpler. And there are a couple of consultants that will be used for those that we have on contract already. One is CEC, and one will be Atkins. And those, since they don't have to go through the advertisement process, it's a little bit faster, and we'll be able to get on that a little bit quicker. And with that, I think that's everything I have on the street enhancements, unless there are any questions.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So do we know which consultants are being identified for the 3 that are using on-call?
Yeah, CEC will be given the 10th in Vermont, and then Atkins will be given the other 2, Northeast 23rd and Plaza. Any other questions? Okay. I'll hand it back over to Brock. He's going to take us through some of the other projects, updates.
I'll move through the sidewalk projects. The sidewalk projects we've approved the 5 different areas, the PPAs, the pedestrian priority areas. We approved the schools, the parks, the transit, and the downtown sidewalks. And so on those locations, our in-house consultant, CEC, they're working with us to identify, so they're out doing preliminary scoping. They're moving through each one of the 5 different categories, trying to look through that stuff. A lot of these projects we feel like we can design in-house and do just like we do with the street resurfacing. We kind of identify everything. We put together an engineer's estimate, and then we'll work to get budget authority and move through that process and get a work order out to a contractor. There may be some of those that we run into some issues where we may have to acquire some right-of-way in those areas, and so that's where we're at in these projects. We're just in that preliminary scoping to verify the ones that we can do in-house and use the unit price contracts and the on-call stuff, and then identify the ones that we may need to go to an outside consultant to do a little more research and issues like that. Bicycle facilities are really in the same category. We're in our preliminary scope. We're reviewing those projects. A lot of these that we feel like we can do in-house, we will, and then the ones that we feel like need to go to outside consultant. We'll advertise those like we have with the street enhancements. Now the trails, of course, obviously the Burt Cooper Trail was one that y'all wanted to get as an early start project, and it's moving along really well. A lot of our crack seal and our transverse crack repairs, so all the initial repair process of the structure and everything that's there, we've completed that in all the phases. And so what we've done is we've jumped back to phase 1, and all the paving is complete on phase 1, and then we're just moving forward. So each day, just like we discussed the temperature and stuff, each day that we get that temperature and everything that we can do some paving on that, we move forward with that paving. And so hopefully we'll keep marching through and grab every good day that we get and try to complete that process as quick as possible. We had a really cool picture, a really good drone photo of this, and we'll bring this back to you. We just had some issues with it working this morning, but it's a real neat, it starts there on that first phase, and so as it pans out, you can see the lake and everything, and you can kind of watch these guys kind of scramble around and do the construction. A little more movement on this one, things going on than the other paving video, but the drone was really neat. We'll try to do more of that and bring those videos to you so you get to see that, and I think that's a cool thing to display. But that project's moving forward, and things are going good, and the rest of the trails the same thing. We're kind of in the preliminary scoping and looking at those. A lot of the existing trails that have already been approved, we're evaluating those and looking at that stuff, and hopefully we can get some more of those moving quicker so we can show some more videos of more trails being repaired.
Got a question on the Burt Cooper trails.
Yes.
What percent would you say is completed of that project?
As far as monetarily, obviously all the huge cost is in the asphalt. So where it might only show we're 60% complete with the monetary value, in real essence, we're probably 70% complete. I think doing all the crack repair, that's kind of some of the slower work that takes a lot of more handwork and things. So we've moved through that, working with the Parks Department and trying to keep all the planning going on. They have a lot of events out there, and they continue to have events out there. So we work with them and make sure that we get through the phases and don't, disrupt any more of those than we have to. But I'd say we're 70% done. But I think this last 30%, while it is winter, I think it'll move pretty quick, and hopefully we'll finish by January. I think last week I'd brought that estimates of times when complete, and I still hope that we get that done by January.
I know the trails are supposed to be closed during construction, but there are those that still get out and use those trails even with the construction going on, and some of the feedback has been it's rougher than it was to begin with, but it obviously hasn't gotten completed yet. So
correct, yeah. The crack, it's just like any resurfacing. If we mill that surface, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And then the same with this. A lot of the crack repairs and the sealant and stuff, it does make it a little rougher, but that kind of preparation work is going to make the rest of it go smooth. So if they go over to the first phase and look at that, I think it's a million times better. And then hopefully once we get all that paving complete, that'll really make it look like the trail that we want it to be.
thank you.
If there's no more questions on that, we'll move to the implementation plan.
I'm sorry, I've got one more question.
No, yeah, go right ahead.
I know that the dam area is not included in this phase, and that's up, I think, I understand, to the Water Utility Trust to do work on that. Have we heard anything about?
The only update that I have is I've heard that between Planning, Parks, and Public Works and the Utilities Department, they're working to resolve those issues and try to push forward with something, but that's really the only update I have right now. But I know that those discussions are in the work, and we're trying to come up with a situation where we could, potentially put another project out there to y'all and try to get something done. But it's above my head right now, and those department heads are working together, and and they're trying to move forward with something. You're welcome.
So I had a question about the sidewalk update.
Yes.
So could you give us, or do you have an idea, I guess from a timeline standpoint, when you would expect to have like some more specifics? Because I think some of what was approved were sort of the broader areas, right? And so then I think you guys are going and investigating to figure out like exactly where those are going to be run. Do we have an idea just from a timeline standpoint? Are we talking about maybe a few more months as far as like meetings that we would meet before, you know, what that more specific scope is going to look like?
We have a lot of the PPA areas engineered and estimated and stuff, and then we have a lot of the parks areas engineered and approved. We are really, really close to working with a contractor and starting on a lot of the parks, and so hopefully by the next time we meet, we'll have several projects in construction with the approved list that you have. So I would hopefully, you know, within the next few weeks, we should be able to get with the contractor and put out a lot of the parks and hopefully some of the PPA areas. We're trying to look at schedules and stuff, and that's a big part of what we do. You know, schools and everything. You know, one of the areas is schools, and so obviously, during the school year is a more difficult time. Hopefully we can catch it in the summer, but I think if the disruption, once we get all those engineering estimates and we kind of look at the phasing and stuff, if the disruption's minimal and we think it's a safe environment for everybody, we'll go ahead and release those projects and get them out there working. But yeah, hopefully in the next few weeks we'll have some progress on that and many other projects. So that brings us to the implementation plan. Obviously, when we approve the new prioritization methods, we put that in the implementation plan, that we've revised that, and so we included in the packet just a list of the things that you can put in your binders and make the updates. And so, you know, the two major things, I guess three major things, is the prioritization for the arterial, the prioritization method for the residential, and then, of course, we approved the 10 new projects. So this will be an action item of these things. And so I believe last time, you know, it's kind of two items. It's to receive the update and then obviously to recommend adoption, you know, to the city council. And I think last time we did that with just one vote. And so we come to you and ask that we do it again. We approve the prioritization and we approve those 10 streets, and so now we just ask that you receive the update to the implementation plan and recommend adoption to the city council.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Passes.
Which that brings us to the financial report.
Good morning. Erica Vanderseipen with the Budget Office. I just want to go over this month's financial information. In the month of November, we had $9,137,000 in revenue, which is above target by 2.5%. Overall, we have revenues of $87,198,000, which includes interest of almost a little over $500,000. Currently, we have allocations of $65,433,000, which is about 75% of current collections. And then we have totally encumbered, which means it's been allocated to a contract of $27,980,000. And overall expenditures to date, have been $7,135,000. If there's any questions?
On the total received, is that about what was projected?
It's 5.1% over what was projected to date. Okay, I just asked that this is an action item if you receive the financials. I'm
sorry? It's been moved? Second. And seconded. receive the financial report. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you very much.
Okay, so we just wanted to run past you the meeting schedule for next year, and that'll be much like it was this past year, just the first Monday of each month with the exception of September due to Labor Day. So that's for your, an action item for you to adopt. Just an FYI, I should mention for January, we may not need to meet. We're kind of keeping an eye on that. So in the next week or two, we'll know more and let you know.
I move to accept the meeting schedule as presented.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Very good.
Good morning. Debbie Miller with Public Works. Director's reports for Public Works. We just wanted to let you know that we're working on our year-end report. It's hard to believe it's been a whole year and that we've been together. So either January or probably February, we will have a year-end report that we will hand out to you that will show our progress through the year.
Thank you. Any other direct reports? Next would be comments. Comments from the board. All right. Comments from staff. Any comments from citizens? Very good. Well, that went very smooth. Anybody want to volunteer their home for the Christmas party? Well, y'all can think about that.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I do have some comments. It's been a pleasure serving with you and with the whole board. This is my last meeting, I'm sorry to say. We are leaving the state, so my councilman will be aware to know to appoint someone new for my position. Thank you much.
Appreciate all your time. Thank you. Well, I think that does it. A very good meeting. Everyone be safe and have a wonderful holiday season. We are adjourned. Thank you.